everybody.
Here we are. We're awake. We're alive.
Yeah. Faces are a bit swollen. Eyes just a little bit closed too much.
James pointed out the ravagedness of my voice in the pre-AM hours.
Yeah.
But you know what I think it is that I think Rob uses his voice so much throughout the course of the day that it's, he really needs the recovery time to get it back to normal. And it probably doesn't get on to where it's supposed to be until around noon for you.
Probably.
That you've kind of warmed it up.
It depends, because sometimes, like, if I'm outside, like on my walk or my run in the morning, talking to myself the whole time like a psychopath. So that kind of warms it up. But I just woke up, 35 minutes ago. So the coffee will help. But hey, this is our first pre-tape episode. So thank you guys for tuning in the future.
Yes. Welcome to the future.
This will be airing on April 21st. Hopefully by the time you see this, I've had an epic conversation with Steve Vai, and now we're best friends. And he sent me 17 gems, and it's great. Nice. And I'll be 38. But today I'm still 37, and we're going to talk about one of my favorite Dream Theater albums of all time.
Yeah, same.
But before we do that, I think it's important we ask ourselves, what's in the? That's right. So what's in the glass, gentlemen? Are we drinking like just straight methamphetamines at this hour?
Yes. Yeah. Black tar heroin.
Go ahead, Brian.
No, go ahead, man. Do it.
I made an espresso pod, and I added a mess of ice to it, some half and half. You just did your thing.
Oh, you could hear that, yeah.
Oh yeah, it sounded so
good. You let a demon in the room, something like that.
I just wanted to be prepared with something in my glass. Sorry.
I added half and half and 2 pumps of Irish cream syrup, so I can get a hint of JMO in the morning.
Oh, all right, nice. Very cool.
You shook it a lot, didn't you?
Oh, I very much did, and it's nice and like frothy and foamy, and it's really, really good.
Very good. I'm also having just coffee, man. So I have just regular coffee in this sweet mug that Christy got me. I don't know if it was for birthday or Christmas, but it's got over 40 different images, from iconic images that are from different movies. So yeah, they're all numbered. So if you don't know what it is, you kind of look on the bottom. I'm not going to tilt this over, and it kind of tells you like Terminator, Rocky, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, things like that.
Oh man, challenge accepted. I want that.
Oh yeah, dude, it's pretty cool. So you can see like chest buster in there, ear from Reservoir Dogs. It's a sweet mug, and it's a great conversation piece,
Now, when you were just explaining it, how much willpower did it take to not tilt it over to demonstrate?
A lot. Guys, check it out.
I saw it coming. Well, I too have coffee I've just created. Folger's Special Dark Roast. Because it is the best. Huh? It's the best part of waking up. Not always. I was part of a Coffee of the Month club. And there's all these exotic, like you put in your coffee flavor profile you like, and they send you different blends and beans from around the world.
Yeah.
And I finished that. And then Sam is preferable to this. So this is what we had open. So cheers, gentlemen.
Cheers, guys.
Grown up cheers. It's like we're at the diner in the morning.
Right? I know, right? After a whole night of partying.
It's funny when you say that. I had a conversation with my family this past week. And they were asking me why I was still intent on being like extra cautious during COVID and everything. Like, oh, you're going to be fully vaccinated soon. Why don't you go out and do something? And I'm like, it doesn't really work like that. And just this past week, there's been a lot of articles on people still getting sick despite the fact that they got the vaccine.
Breakthrough cases. Yeah.
So I don't think there's anything wrong with being extra careful. I think that's a good idea. And on top of that, I can leave my house, and within 1 mile of leaving my house, I will see some act of humankind that will disappoint me. So I'm really okay with not doing anything or going anywhere because I don't want to be disappointed in humanity all the time.
Yeah, the idiots are winning.
But there are some things that I do miss from going out. Case in point, going to a diner with my friends and having a cup of coffee.
Absolutely.
I feel like that would be very, very nice.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So it's worth the disappointment along the way to have a good time.
Well, while we're on the topic of coffee, have you seen, there's a lot of bands that are doing like coffee blends, getting affiliated with different, I know Code and Camera is one of them. I mean, there's
Periphery has one too.
Periphery. Yeah. Yep. There's just a litter of them. But did you see they have an Army of Darkness?
I did. That's Bones Coffee Company, right?
I think so. Yeah. I was
I
like,
keep meaning to
I'm
try their
tempted.
stuff.
Very tempted.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, hey, sometime in the next 6 to 8 months, maybe there's going to be a Rob School Music brand of coffee. Who knows? Maybe.
I was thought about asking. I was like, oh wait, maybe I shouldn't because it's maybe under wraps.
It's still in the very, very, very early. You know, it might not be anything, but just the thought of it is pretty cool. So
Yeah, it's so awesome. I'll
Very cool.
totally rock your whole bean.
Yeah.
I bet you will. Maybe a bean and a half.
Oh yeah.
All right, so what are we talking about today, guys?
Dream Theater, Images and Words from '92. It's their second release from their first album. It's a great album. So I had bought, just because I knew I got introduced from Dream Theater from you two, and
Right.
I bought, what was it, the next album? Was it Awake?
Awake, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I had Awake, and I liked that album. And then I think it was James, and you had said like you gotta get Images Word, and then Rob, you're like, yeah, definitely gotta get Images Word. So you had it, so I borrowed it from you, and I was like, oh yeah, this is a killer album. So that's how I got introduced to this album.
Brian, does your version of Awake have a sticker from the wall on the case?
Absolutely.
Yes, I remember. Yeah. I remember. So this is something.
Undertow does too.
This is something that like. It's funny because I was watching a video, quick tangent tying into this concept.
Yeah.
I watched this guy on YouTube who's just a video game guy. Metal Jesus rocks. Shout out. Seems like a Bizarro World version of James if James just went all video games, like long hair, just like super passionate about just one thing.
Yeah.
But he has this other girl on, and they were talking about like pet peeves of collecting, because they'll like these are people who collect like entire sets, like every Switch game that came in, every NES game, like, you know what I mean, like full blown. And one of the biggest pet peeves is the stickers on the cases.
Yes.
And certain companies, like they're in Seattle, so there's people like Microsoft employee stickers that they stick on the case that's with a certain adhesive that no matter how much Goo Gone you put on won't come off. And it made me think of the wall stickers ruining this. Like that matters.
Yeah, the walls and the little rainbow hologram dog bone.
Mm-hmm.
That sticker sometimes would never come up. What I figured out is if you would get this sticker, if you can get the wrapping, the seal off the CD pretty good, you use it as a sticker and just go like that, like stick it and like press it and pull it, it would do it. But sometimes it wouldn't with that dog bone one. It would just be on there and it would drive me nuts because then lint, dog hair, everything from your house would just get stuck to you. You're like, yeah, this is my dirty ass CD.
You know, this is even more of a tangent, and I'm sorry about that. But I found out very early in life that isopropyl alcohol, 90% is your friend. It gets everything off. But in the case of CD cases, it generally you have like this pretty brand new glossy case, and it dulls that spot. So it's like, I got the sticky stuff off. I still ruin the case. So.
It's like the reverse version of what I did to that Telecaster I sold the guy.
Whoops!
Oh man,
he's like on his way.
Oh man,
yeah, but this is, you know, for me, like I didn't know this music at all. Like this is such an special part of my life. When I just started playing guitar, you know, James and I's friendship had transitioned from many things along the way, but, you know, be it martial arts in the beginning, at the model cars, video games, Power Rangers, Pogs, swords, all these different things. But then when it hit music, it like really just like went into warp speed. And in high school, you know, Jake Bowen, who's in Periphery, John Petrucci's nephew, was talking about this band, giving us guitar picks. We all thought it was BS. Clearly it wasn't. But I thought what was so special about this is it was recorded in our town.
Bear Tracks.
Like literally down the road.
Like literally any Rob School of Music people here, like you could stand at Rob School of Music, huck really low. It'd take a good spin, but like put it to the base of your abdomen, chords 202, and you'd get about halfway there. It's about 10 minutes up the road, a little less, which is insane.
It's there's a lot of iconic artists that have. It's a small little. It's if you guys go on look at Bear Track Studios and stuff from New York. It's a tight spot. Like it is beautiful on the inside. Spyro Gyra have recorded there. The Goo Goo Dolls, even Anthrax. Anthrax did their "We've Come for You All" 2003. Their ninth.
I believe John Lennon did something there.
No,
my memory. I believe that's a story. I don't know if it's true, so don't.
I didn't see it because I was looking up all the artists. I don't remember seeing his name.
Yeah, could be wrong.
It was
maybe
urban
legend.
Show's over, Rob Light. I gotta go.
I don't remember. I mean, I know Drew Kelly performed there a few times. So
Kelly.
In the control room.
Nothing can control Drew Kelly. Nothing.
That is very true. Drew is an amazing human being. So, how do we want to approach this today, guys? Do we want to talk track by track or just general factoids?
Well, I want to start off with giving people, because I think some people may not know the importance of Dream Theater. Some people may not even know who Dream Theater is. I think that it's important to note they're a progressive metal band, and if you listen to this album, I think you're going to be a little bit taken aback. If you're thinking metal, you're going to think, really, especially when you get to the second track of this. But this is a metal album. It is by fans. It's been voted as one of the best metal albums of all time. Live Wire did that back in 2013. Images was ranked number 7 by Guitar World magazine as one of the top 10 lists for guitar albums in '92 to come out. Rolling Stone even voted it as 100. Yeah, number 7, 2017.
The hell was
ranked,
number 1?
I don't know. Yeah, number 2017. It was ranked 95th. Rolling Stone's 100 greatest metal albums of all time. So, it's an iconic album. I think kind of flies under the radar of most, fans of music. I don't think they know about it, but it's a great album, and it's the first album to feature their new vocalist, James, not James Marachi, but James Lurie, as the vocalist, and it's a great album. It really is.
I feel like a lot of musicians along the way, when it comes to this type of music, they can be dismissive of the vocalist because they're so hyper focused on whichever virtuoso in the band, because there's more than one they choose to focus on. But I think on all the albums, but in this album, I think that James brings the same amount of importance as every other guy in that band. The vocals, the melodies, that he soars, he brings it down. And then if it's not the purpose, but then you get into the next record, something like 6 a.m. is it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like there's grit now in his voice. Now he's like alternative rock James. So it's like
he complements their music really well. And I wrote that in one of my notes about he just does a really good job of the way it almost is the way. And I'm not making the comparison in any way, shape, or form, so don't take this too seriously. But the way Robert Plant could mimic Jimmy Page's rhythm when he was playing rhythm, or even the solos, he just did a really good job complimenting. They all did, and that chemistry is in this band too. These musicians are phenomenal musicians. It's almost like listening to some of your best studio artists come together.
Sorry, that was the waitress giving me a warm up on the cup. No big deal.
You want a refresher?
Waitress.
Something to comment on James's voice is, if you dig a little deep into the band, you would find there may have been some turmoil with some of the members, because from Images and Words forward, there's one video you can watch on YouTube, and I love Dream Theater. But you can watch this video of them performing from the first tour of it off of Images and Words, and then all the way through to maybe Octavarium, and watch them play Pull Me Under. And James's performance gets less and less and less and less and less per year. And I'm not holding that against him, because his range is so extreme that how does it go any other way? I feel like when you push as hard as some of these late 80s, early 90s vocalists did, your voice has no choice but to suffer in some regard. There are certain people that have circumvented that, like Devin Townsend's voice never really degraded, and I don't know how that's humanly possible. But Jeff Tate from Queensryche is another big one that just in time, while he was still with the band, they kept tuning down more and more and more to keep up with how his voice couldn't keep up with a regular
Which
tune.
I don't fault. Jeff Tate's a good example there, because the new singer, Todd, whatever, who's actually in Queensryche now, and Jeff has his own Mind Crime band.
Queensryche V2.
Which was shitting all over Jeff Tate, because it's like, well, if you can't sing it the way it was sung, don't sing it anymore. It's like, F you, we're humans. This is an instrument that degrades over time. Listen to my voice on a Saturday after talking a week. Imagine singing like an opera singer for 200 dates a year. It's
some
unfair.
of that over time it gets seasoned in a different way, and it's nice. It's to hear that maturity. James, you wrote that in the article about Taylor Swift. I think Joey Belladonna from Anthrax.
Who were you gonna say? Jerry Cantrell?
Jerry Cantrell. His voice is seasoned. It's not the same as it used to be either from years of touring. It still has some of that harmony to it. But Joey's a great example of that. I don't think it's gotten to the point where you're like, you can't do it anymore. Steven Tyler is one of those ones like, don't, I don't think it works as well. I was surprised to find out in researching this album a little bit more. There was a lot of marked tensions in this album with the producer, which I didn't know about. So originally this album was supposed to be a double album.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and Atco, the record company, rejected it. So there's obviously several songs that were tossed from this album that would have been, on here.
Do you think they got migrated to Awake? Or?
They did. So A Change of Seasons was later re-recorded and released on the EP of the same name in '95. So some of those things did kind of get popped up somewhere else, or they've shown up live. But yeah, it's really interesting that the producer they really, really bumped heads with, and the record company were just kind of D's, about this record, which is, considering how it came out, that's pretty cool. Like, you don't hear that. Sometimes you could hear that, like User Illusions, you could hear the band falling apart.
Right.
You don't hear those tensions come through. If anything, they've set a fire under their asses and produced a far more intense, fiery album.
You know what I think? Well, I'm sorry, James.
Go ahead.
I think, all over the place, but Pull Me Under, I think you referenced a few moments ago. For like someone watching this who's like a metal progressive fan, I know Liquid Tension Experiment just had their new record come out yesterday, which is Energy and Portnoy. I can't wait to hear that. Pull Me Under was on Headbangers Ball.
Yep.
They played that video on MTV. So imagine like a Dylan Rackley or a current progressive music fan turning on MTV and mixed in with that day's era of Lamb of God and Megadeth and so on. There's a progressive song. Like Pull Me Under is a long song. I mean, it's really cool. And I learned that from James. I remember watching Headbangers Ball tapes with you. I guess, Laura, you had taped them. And I was like, what? So cool. Yeah.
Well, let's just jump into Pull Me Under. I mean, that song enters at such a beautiful precision. I mean, but the underlying power that's there, it foreshadows. I'm sorry.
I cut James off.
I did it again.
It's all good. There was one thing I wanted to mention about inner struggles and turmoils within the band.
Yeah.
That this and Awake are Kevin Moore's last albums with the band.
Right.
And these are my last two favorite albums of Dream Theater's. I like the stuff that comes after. I get to a point and I don't really like some of the new stuff, like how we've all said that there's certain albums that we just kind of lose interest in a band. Mm-hmm. For me, that was Octavarium. I after that, this didn't really do much for me. But I think Dream Theater's sound, to me, is defined by Images and Words completely. And I think a big part of that is Kevin Moore. And when he was struggling in and out of the band during the Awake sessions, I think you can hear that in Awake because it's not quite as cohesive as Images and Words is. And then when you get to the following album, Kevin Moore's not there. I miss him a lot. Like what he brings with the whole synth and piano and everything is something that Jordan Rudess and Derek Sherinian, amazing players, amazing musicians, and they don't do what Kevin Moore did for this band. And it's so unfortunate to me. I think that more than anything, that's what changed Dream Theater for me, was not having his sound as be a part of the band.
It's interesting because I think like Sherinian, and definitely not degrading either one of these people, I loved the Burning My Soul and that record with Derek Sherinian was fantastic. And then the Jordan stuff, he's just a wizard. But there was something organic about
You're a wizard, Harry.
Yeah, the buttons aren't working.
I got it for you, brother. I got you back.
Thank you.
Good job, Hagrid.
There is something organic about what he was doing, especially on like the solos, the stuff in Metropolis, the stuff in Pull Me Under, just what's happening. It's very symbiotic with the guitar versus like, I'm a guitarist and I shred. I'm a keyboard player and I shred. It's like, no, we're a band and we shred.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like I feel like it was very, very well said right there. That like I feel like it was much more complimentary of the whole band when Kevin Moore was a part of it, and now with Jordan Rudess, I feel like it's a measuring contest between him and John Petrucci that they just throw back and forth between each other way too much, and it's not what it was about, and I feel like it takes something away from the overall product now.
At the level of virtuosity with those guys, no one's going to win that. They're endless wangs. Like it just keeps going. It's like the great wall of wang. Like you're just not going to beat it.
It really is the case.
You know what's
they're just monsters.
Is put this in context too. So Rob, you brought up Headbangers Ball with you and James and those those tapes. If you think about it, this came out in '92. So you can hear a tremendous amount of growth from their debut sophomore to their debut to the sophomore release. So think about it. They had an original, their original vocals on the first album. So there's something to adjustment here to make such an iconic record with a brand new vocalist. That's a hard adjustment. The tensions that were happening in the recording process. This came out in '92, and if you think about that, the production is far superior, right, to when Dream and now. So from when Dream and Day Unite to this album. Think about like Pretty Hate Machine in '89 also came out around this time. So you think about like what was coming out at this time. This is, that late '80s, early '90s. Like this is pretty in your face different music that's like coming out here. Like this is some different metal. Like you have glam metal going on at this time. This is a different sound. I don't think people realize that it's an iconic band. I think it did a lot for progressive metal and just and metal in general.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's actually. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's okay.
I don't know if this is a tangent or not, but can either of you name anything that sounds like this album?
I was trying to make some comparisons. I have some. There's songs in here where I'm like, oh, who is it? Wait, hold on a second. Where is it? It's oh, here it is. So on Metropolis Part 1, The Miracle and the Sleeper. This is the only one. I hear Guns N' Roses being directly influenced by this song. And it's evidence within Chinese Democracy's Riyadh and the Bedouins. Huh. Listen to that song and then listen to the beginnings of Metropolis, and you're like, oh, wow. Somebody was directly influenced by that. Now, I'd have to go back because there was like, I don't even know how many friggin' guitarists that played on guitar, Chinese Democracy. Was it Buckethead that was influenced by that? Was it Bumblefoot? Well, I mean, name the guitarists. They had there's just a suitcase of guitars for that album. So,
it could have been about Bumblefoot.
I think so.
He plays with Mike Portnoy and
right. So that's what I was thinking.
Sons of Apollo.
Yeah. So I didn't have a chance to bring the liner notes up from Chinese to kind of see.
Wow.
But yeah, go listen to it, and I guarantee you'll be like, oh, you got to
look at that circle. Damn.
Yeah. Wow. Well done.
But that's the only thing I can think of. But I'm sure people have been influenced. But there is no other album that sounds like this. This is a unique album for its time. I think since then there's been albums that you could be like, oh yeah, these are Dream Theater lovers. These are Mike Portnoy fan. You could hear it, but I don't think at that time.
Before we get into, because we should start picking on some songs, I think as musicians, well, no, but this is good. I mean, we were worried about, this is great. I love all of the guitar sounds. There's not a guitar sound on this album I don't like.
Right.
The diversity of what he's accomplishing, it made me instantly scour reverb for a guitar I don't need.
Rob, I swear to God, you get one of those things before I do, and I'm going to kill you.
You know the cycle. I'll buy it. I'll sell it to you. It's all good.
Strangle you with Krispy Kreme donuts.
Well, I'll rephrase. If you buy it and you do not sell it to me for a fair price, I will kill you.
But I'm going to say something controversial now.
Uh-oh.
I don't love the drum tone on every single song.
Yes.
That's fair.
Sometimes they sound great and huge and big, and other times they sound very triggered, and it's the same snare hit every time, and they get lost.
Well, there's a reason for that. So I think that I was researching. I don't know if I put this in my notes because I was trying to keep.
Oh wait, I'm sorry. Can I say one more thing?
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
So when I first got this album, I bought it at the Nanuet Mall, whichever the music store. Oh no, Palisades Mall, the music store there, whatever that one was called, on the 3rd floor.
FYI.
Yeah. And I get in the car with my dad, and I was so excited because, Jake and James had turned me on to this. And I was like, listen, the singer sounds a little bit like, my dad likes Journey. So I said, he sounds a little bit like Steve Perry, but the drummer is really great. My dad's a drummer. And he's like, the drums sound triggered and terrible. And that always stuck with me. I didn't agree at the time because I'm like 13. I'm like, F you don't know anything. But now listening.
I know all.
Yeah. But yeah, there's like a staleness. So I'm sorry. That was the end of that story.
No, it's great that you said that. So I forgot to put in my notes, but one thing I was reading about, because I was curious, I'm like, what was it that the producer's name is David Prater? What was it that caused such tension? Aside from the fact that they limiting the band, not just him, but also the record label, limiting the band's creative intentions of making this a double album. Which just think about that, because this is already an epic album with its 8 tracks. What was one of the things? One of the things is him and Mike Portnoy clashed about how the drums should be recorded, and him kind of just doing what he wanted to do with that. And I think that's why you hear that kind of sound on some of those tracks. It kind of limited Mike, which is interesting because if you listen to Mike in any other iteration, whether it's this band, session work, other bands, he's one of the best drummers out there. Like he's up there with like Neil Peart. So it's interesting. Yeah, it's really interesting about that. Yeah.
Now I'd be curious to listen to something else that Prater produced to see if he overly compressed the drums there as well.
That's what I wanted.
His sound as a producer.
I gotta pull that up. I should have pulled that up. The only other thing that I don't like about this album, Rob, that's really funny that you pointed that out because the drums didn't sit well with me in a couple tracks. But I didn't like how, I don't know who decided. I don't know if it was a producer or the band, the order of tracks. I think going from such a powerful Pull Me Under, you like, once that song comes in, you're like, where's this going? It's beautiful, but you can feel that, like I said, underlying power that it has, and it's kind of, something's about to unfold here. And when it does, you're like, I'm in. And the way it just abruptly ends, you're like, oh no, come back. Where did you go?
Ends in the middle of a measure.
Yeah, and it's just like, and they've asked him about that. And Mike Portnoy, I said we had all this tension and just kept building and building and building. We had no idea where to take it. So we just decided to pull the plug on it like the Beatles did with She's So Heavy. And I was like, what a great tip of the hat. That's great. But then you come in with the second track, and it's not a bad track because I love Another Day. I think that's a terrible placement for that. I think to go from Pull Me Under to this kind of ballad that has, and nothing against it having a saxophone. I think that's what makes this band so great is their
Was that not Jay Becker?
It's Jay Beckenstein, yeah.
Beckenstein.
Yeah, Beckenstein, thank you.
Yeah. I think it's great that they always show this type of growth. We're going to throw a saxophone here. We're going to do this. We're going to very keyboard heavy solo here. We're going to do this here. We're going to have. So I think that their courage to do those things is always something I've loved about them. I think that putting Another Day right there in the second track, I don't think that it ever fit well with me. And listening to it years later again, I'm like, no, it still doesn't fit for me. Like I think it would go somewhere better somewhere else. I
love that song though. I do
that. Too. I just don't like it there. I don't think going from that song abrupt end to that. Play it this way. Play that album again, play track 1 when it abruptly ends, immediately skip to 3 and tell me it doesn't feel better. And then throw Another Day somewhere else. It fits better.
You know, it's funny. I feel like when I first got into this band and when I first got this album and I was like, it was the only thing that I listened to for weeks and months on end.
Yeah.
I would have agreed with you completely on that statement.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I wanted 8 tracks to pull me under.
Right.
Is what I wanted.
It's not a heavy album.
No.
Yeah, no.
It undulates. Where like it comes in, you're like, it just hits you. It's like being in a fight, a couple jabs, boom, there's the hook. You're like, oh, all right.
But listening to it these past couple days, I found myself appreciating the structure of it so much more. Mm-hmm. That I loved that Another Day was there because it really, like you just said, like it goes up, takes you down a little bit, up, takes you down a little bit, and I feel like it kind of crescendos on that upward movement on Metropolis, and then starts to just peter down before you get to the end of the album. But I found myself really liking the way it was structured on these past couple days re-listening to it. I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah.
But interesting.
Yeah. No, I mean, I could see both ways. For me, even if it was track 3, I just think it would flow, for me, it would flow a little bit better. But yeah, ultimately, I love this album. It's a great album.
It's Metropolis was the first song that like I fell in love with and then went backwards and then the Pull Me Under story. But now listening back to it as a more mature, worldly musician, I guess, I still listen to it and I say, holy crap, how do you write something like that? How do you do that? How do you memorize all those parts and all the changes and the time changes and
oh my God,
it's just insane. Masterpiece.
And I have a distinct memory of like the first time listening to Images and Words. I had it on cassette and listening all the way through up to that point and then flipping the tape over and listening to Metropolis and just shaking my head the entire time. And I like went all the way back to the beginning and re-listened to Metropolis. And for a long period of time, it became my favorite song on the album because it was the first time as a person, as a human being, as a musician, as whatever you want to call it. It might have been before I started playing guitar that I listened to something and said, I don't think a human being could do that. Like, I don't understand how it was possible for someone to move their fingers that quickly or to, like Rob just said, like to create something like that and actually do it. And then like, I have something to show later on, but to see live performances of that song, it's perfect. Like,
Yeah.
how the hell does that happen? The lightning in a bottle, because on like the recording, they probably double or triple track some of that stuff. So they had to play it perfectly those times in the studio in time when there's no room for error. And then they just do it live. Like, it's just, whatever. We do this.
Yeah.
We've been doing it for 30 years. Who cares?
Right.
No big deal.
This album's directly responsible for opening me up to session players and just broadening my mind. Broaden your mind, gentlemen. See how I tied it all in for you? You got it. Gentlemen, let's broaden our minds. I don't know where I was going with that. Oh man. Oh yeah, like you said, like just their precision, their prowess, their technique. It got me into things like finding other artists that like I may have not necessarily gotten into if it wasn't for Dream Theater. Finding Terry Bozzio, Tony Levin, finding these other artists, and the Long Island Drum Center in Nyack, New York, helped me with that too. Just being in there for drum lessons and talking to Greg and finding out about like different bands and like him listening to things and drumming along. Like Dream Theater was another one he would drum along to, or like other bands. I was like, what is this? He's like, that's Terry Bozzio, brother. And I'm like, oh, and he would just throw on the video, and you're like, oh, there are other. Oh, this is not just in Dream Theater. Oh man, and then you just go on that rabbit hole. You just go down that hunt. Like I gotta find other stuff, and some of it you're like, it's not for me, but you find so much stuff, and this band really opened me up to that.
I think also like in the 90s, like. Let's say you stumble on this band. So let's say I got hip to this band late 90s. Mm-hmm. You still didn't have the ability to go down the hole as easily as you can now. So it took teachers doing this. I remember going to my guitar lesson and Ryan was like, oh, you like that? Check this out. Same exact experience with you in the drum lessons, or, a new Guitar World came in the mail, and then it's
your friends.
Yeah. Because all my friends had older siblings, or were older than me, I should say, or both, or one or the other. So more coffee. But now it's like virtuosic musicians are everywhere, and you just go on Instagram and you search through it. And I'm going to pontificate for just a second. Don't be intimidated by that. And I don't know if I've said this before on here, but if you're a young player and you see someone on Instagram who's doing something that you feel like you'll never be able to do, well, I felt like I'd never be able to do what John Petrucci could do. Sometimes I still feel that way, but it didn't scare me. It inspired me to try, or take a little bit of him and a little bit of this guy, a little bit of that guy, and make me. But a lot of these kids or players in general will see these people playing on Instagram, just doing things that seem impossible. Well, let's lift up the curtain. I'm going to say 80% of the time it isn't possible. They already recorded it. They're playing along to themselves. They're miming. They speed it up. There's a lot of wizardry going on that wasn't going on when this record was going on. So if you see something that you think is too good for you to ever be able to do, you got to choose to be inspired by that. Don't let it intimidate you, because you'll be able to do something equally as good as your own. I can make one note make you cry in the same way that one of these guys could make 1,000 notes make you cry. It's all about the emotion and the love behind it. But yeah,
that's a great sentiment.
Stop mid-measure.
No, pull me under. That's a great sentiment. And the other thing too is I think ego is the mother of all. Like, just dissolve that ego. Don't allow your ego to tell you like, all right, looking at James play that, like, I'll never, looking at this. Now. Just dissolve the ego. Just go for it, man. Just go for broke. Understand that the first 7, 8, 10, 20, 100 tries is going to suck and sound horrible, but just keep at it, man. Just keep at it. Well, and maybe you won't get there, but you'll find your sound. You'll find your niche. You'll find your pocket. You're like, oh, damn, that's where my heart lies. All right, cool.
To give James a little bit of a blow his head up a bit, I mean, playing in a band with him when I first started, James was the best guitarist in the school. Tom was the best drummer in the school, and I was not the best guitarist nor the best singer. So I was sitting across from a guy who could put on a Dream Theater record, a Pink Floyd record, a Rage record, a Nine Inch Nails record, a Korn record, and just like fall in love with it and master the catalog in a week. It
was disgusting, and at the same time, just so uplifting to watch James. I'm like, we should cover this. Right. Like, what?
But like that's a real world example of being a practitioner of that. Never, a few hiccups along the way, but most of the time, 99.9% of the time, I looked across and I said, I'm lucky to have someone like that to push me to be better, versus like, I'll never be any good. So when you see a player that's better than you at, maybe one day you won't be better, maybe you'll be equal down the road, but it's we're all on the same team kind of. So when you see music like this, that's just so virtuosic. Is that the word? There's a movie Virtuosity, Denzel Washington.
Yeah, I just watched it the other day. It's very good.
There's like blue wires or so. Yeah.
Russell Crowe's first
Russell
movie.
Crowe. Yep. Yeah, I just watched that too. That's so funny.
Yeah, it's on Amazon Prime. I was like, yes.
It's a bit dated with the CGI. Some movies you go back and
At
like,
the
all
time,
right,
it was so revolutionary.
yeah, that one just didn't hold the test of time. The special effects, but there's been other ones. I watched something recently where the CGI was kind of new on the scene. It's like, all right, this still holds up. Yeah.
I hate to do it, but I am going to circle back to your tangent a second ago, Rob, about watching people on Instagram. But I'm going to take it in a different direction, because growing up, I used to love playing Street Fighter 2. And I'd play it in arcades, and I would play Mortal Kombat. I would just play all kinds of fighting games, like just next to somebody in an arcade. No big deal. So when online gaming became a thing, I was like, yes, I'm going to play Street Fighter 2 for days on end against people from all over the world. It's going to be amazing. And I got my ass handed to me, hand over fist, by 9-year-olds. I was like, what is going on right now? And then I realized, oh, wait, you're 32. You work 8 to 9 hours a day. And this person barely goes to school, doesn't do anything. All they do is sit in front of a TV and play video games. You have no chance in hell of this ever being good for you. You're done.
That's so funny you say that.
And so I feel like if you're an older student in music and you see something like that, remember you got a life too.
Right.
Like you don't have the time to sit there and play the same solo for 9 hours when you come home from school before you go to sleep.
Yep.
You have other things to do. So you can't be down on yourself for not being able to do something that somebody else can do, because you don't have the time for it.
Yeah.
And there's one guaranteed way, 1,000% one, no matter, just boom, right in your face, guaranteed way to never be that good. Sit here and bitch about it.
Yep.
You want just try. And if even if you get hacked, maybe you can beat a couple 9-year-olds, but the 10-year-olds still beat you. Okay.
You know what is a good? You guys bring up such beautiful points. It's awesome. The other thing that I found that is successful, because like later on in my life, I really realized like how true this is too. Is just have fun with it. The second it starts to get in, you get in your head about it, you get kind of downtrodden about it, just get in your head. Because I play with my 8-year-old. I was like, let's play Mario Kart. I'm like, this is where I'll beat you for sure. Like I'm gonna beat you in this, right? And like I'm very regimented with making sure that he's not in front of a screen, for hours on end. So it's like he has a scheduled amount of time that he could, play these things. I was like, all right, let's do it. And I dead last all the time. I'm like, what is happening right now? And in my head, I'm not acting out like this in front of him, but in my head, I'm like, what the? Why can't I just come in like 11th? Why is it 12th? But then it's just having fun with it and making fun of the game, and then like made it fun, even more fun for him, because it's like I'm having all this. I'm like, well, I'll just be the number one commentary guy in this, and it will be the bee's knees, So it's like just figure out how to have fun with it, and then eventually it becomes this whole other thing. So you guys bring up great points, man. It makes me want to get in the room with you guys right now and just jam. It really does. Yeah.
Soon, man. Soon.
Yeah.
Although I'm a bit of a hypocrite, because when I play Mario Kart with Jack, I trash talk like a mother. And if he beats me, I'm like, you cheated. No, we didn't. Yeah, you did. You obviously cheated. You stood.
You see how I didn't shoot you with shells the entire race?
Yeah.
Just remember that next time.
Yeah, you're playing cheap. Come on.
Stop playing the one player that always has the spike shell that goes all the way to first, you jerk.
That blue one. I hate that blue shell.
Yeah.
All right, so
yes.
I gotta tell you, Rob, right now we're having this great conversation and it's awesome. And the only thing that I can think of in the back of my mind is you owning a JPM 100 before I do.
They're very expensive.
It really pisses me off, man.
They're very expensive.
I think you should absolutely do it. I think it'll be one of the best guitars you ever owned.
I like how he's the devil on your shoulder as well as the devil on the other shoulder. It's like, I really don't like how you have, but at the same time, if you could just go ahead and buy
because
it.
if he gets it, someday inevitably I'll be able to put my hands on it and experience that wonderfulness.
Look at this. This is nonsense. Look. Okay, so here's a camel one coming from Ho Chi Minh in Vietnam. So definitely
don't get a camo.
Definitely legit.
Yeah,
but
no, don't get a camo.
How much? I can't see.
$4,000. Yeah.
You want a P3 or P2?
I want this one.
Now, for the sake of time, because we're at a 40-minute mark, and I know you have. Oh, that is.
That's
put that back up. Put that back up.
That's a
replica.
replica.
It's a replica. Oh.
Yeah, that's just like a little model guitar version, but that would be the one.
But that's cool.
So, just a little, a more related tangent. that is one of the best guitars I've ever played. I've only ever seen one in person, and it was at Victor's House of Music on 17. And it was one of those very rare instances. The only other time I can think of something like this happening is playing an original PV Wolfgang, where I sat down with an instrument and I played better because I was playing that.
Yeah.
That just everything about it just facilitated playing faster and playing better and playing more accurately. And it had such a sweet sound. And at the time I was like, oh man, $1,300. I can't get that.
Right. And they knocked that building down. So now you can never get it. It's over.
Yeah.
It's gone forever.
Oh man. So just for the sake of time, because we're at 40 minutes here and I know we want to talk about more stuff.
We started 5 minutes behind, so we really have 15 left.
Oh yeah.
It's a negative.
Do you guys have a favorite track on this album?
Metropolis.
Yeah, mine too.
I think it's got to be Pull Me Under, because the guitar tone and the just the rhythm, just the whole guitar sound on that song. It's one of my, like I said in the Taylor Swift article, that the Black Album guitar tone from James and Stephen Carpenter's White Pony guitar tone are my 3 favorite guitar sounds ever. And the Petrucci one is something that I don't know if Rob ever noticed it, like that I tried duplicating so many times. I can't say the number of Steve Special's humbuckers that I've had in various different guitars that I've owned. And each time I get one, I'm like, oh man, like it gets you so close to the Petrucci tone, but not quite perfect.
I think with the tri-axis, you got pretty close to it. You're able to dial it.
Yeah, with the tri-axis. And I think I had a Steve Special in the red guitar for a short period of time. And that was the closest I think I ever got. I had it in that black and white swirl Ibanez that I had for a while. And that was really close too. That with the dual rectifier or dual or triple rectifier got me very, very close. But that's, like I think on a daily basis, because that's just how I am, about buying a guitar just for the sake of just like get a guitar with a basswood body, some sort of floating bridge, and putting a Steve Special in it just because I want that sound. And it's not reproducible by any other means except having that pickup. So sweet.
Yeah, I agree. That's my second favorite track on that album. Metropolis. When I was younger too, I wanted Metropolis to be about the movie.
The movie.
My favorite. Yeah, and it's so not. Like you could try to dissect lyrics. It's kind of, it goes everywhere.
It's funny you say that, dude, because when I was listening to it this week, I thought of you because I know how much you love that movie, and I was trying to see if there was any reference, but I didn't. I would have brought it up, but I just didn't.
No, I read the lyrics over and over again, even with older set of eyes and ears, and I was like, no. I mean, I could probably make it work, but no, I don't think it's about that at all. Wanted it so badly.
Well, something that I did want to bring up. What do you guys think of Take the Time? It's track 3 on this album.
I love it. It's so poppy and catchy. You know me.
It's so poppy and catchy, and I feel like the ways that like the clean guitar, like the funk kind of like spanky kind of clean guitar in the first verse, like just changes everything in that song all at once. And then when it comes back in after the first chorus, like the clean guitar comes back in a different way, and it's just so pretty. Petrucci's clean tone is amazing. And just the way that whole song, I feel like how the whole album undulates, that song in itself undulates a lot, that it takes on a lot of different personalities and tones throughout. And it's just so cool. It was one of my favorite songs when I first started listening to the album, 25 some odd years ago.
Well, what's amazing about that song is probably my third favorite is I'm a sucker for audio sampling, and I think if it's done well, that's why I have a penchant for hip hop genre artists that do it really well. It reminds me of Paul's Boutique by Beastie Boys in '89, where it was an iconic record sampling and it became its own musical instrument, and they do it so well here. I love this song too because it's based upon like all the different members wrote a part going through what they were going through with all the changes that had happened leading up to this. And so they all had their own hand in it. And like you said with Petrucci, like that at 420 mark, it starts with that sprawling spread of just instantaneously jumping around with the solo, just like, boom, I'm going somewhere else. Boom, I'm somewhere else. Like to be able to do that, it's just absolutely mesmerizing. You get I must have rewound that like 13 times. I'm like, gotta hear it again. Gotta hear it again. Oh, and each time I'm like getting goosebumps, like, woo-hoo! Gotta do it again. I'm like, it's just amazing to watch someone just like a light switch. Click, click, I'm going here now. Click, click, I'm going here. Click there. And it's like, wow, it's just insanity. That man is just insane.
No, he's bonkers. But
that's insane.
Speaking of the solo as well, not in parallel to Petrucci's playing with the solo, how he goes all those different directions, like you were saying. When he decides to pull back a little bit and just play rhythm, and Kevin Moore takes over soloing on the synths,
equally awesome.
Yeah,
ridiculous.
Straight punch in the face. You're like, oh,
and that's like another like a perfect example. I'm so glad you brought that up because it lets me tie into my Kevin Moore love here for some reason. That like he played exactly what needed to be there at the time, and so perfectly, and his tone and his feel and everything just.
It's almost vocal. His line.
Yeah.
That.
I
would hear a singer like scatting those, that. Yeah.
Yeah, I would have loved to hear another album or like the next album with Kevin Moore on it to
What
see
happened
how
to
it
him?
would have been different. I think there was just some tension there, and he just didn't
Is he
stick
around
around.
still? Like, did he do anything else? Is he alive?
I didn't look. I kind of had a rough week of work, so I didn't really have a lot of chance to do too much.
Just for anyone watching this, so when we first signed on today, it was pre 6 a.m. for James. So he was just ready to go, just like this. I'm all groggy.
Yeah.
Well, on a work day, I'm typically awake like 10 to 5 or so. My computer has to be on at 5 o'clock.
All you guys.
I ran to the store right before this to grab some eggs.
Man, I could go for eggs.
Next year, my goal is to have chickens. So I can get it started on that.
Can you have them in where you're?
Yeah, so I found out. So I was looking into it when I first moved down here. I'm like, when we moved from where we were living to where we are now, I was like, I want to make sure that that's something we were able to do. And then my neighbor two doors down was like, we can. He's like, your yard is perfect. I personally can't because the way what little yard I have, it's too close to your living quarters, and it's also a little bit too close to the buildings behind him. Whereas at my house, the corner edge of where my fence is to the alley, I can. So I was like, ooh.
Can a chicken survive the Chicago winters?
Yes. So I have a good friend of mine and his wife have chickens, and they're kind of like my test. I'm like, so how's it go with the winter? He's like, you just got to make sure. He's like, which you're buying chickens here anyway. You're getting ones that are, they're hardy for this weather. So it's fine. He's like, they're all sitting there.
You don't really even need to do that. Just set the coop on fire later on in the year.
That's inevitable. What is this structure?
Not the whole coop, just the roof. You just set the roof on fire, you douse it, then.
Christy, I don't like the electrical. It's not safe in this house. I got you covered.
God.
If insurance is listening, it was a complete dumbass accident.
I know. I think it's interesting.
Smells like fried chicken out here. Mm-hmm.
Like for me, with like the whole vegan vegetarian, belief system, which I hate saying, it's so fucking polarizing, but eggs is such a gray area. Now, I won't eat a commercially produced egg because they throw the baby boy chicken to the grinder. But if I had my own chicken, what's wrong with that?
Because you just have females that are producing eggs that aren't being fertilized, so it's totally fine. They're just doing their thing, and you're taking care of them.
Right.
You're not disrupting the circle of life, so to speak. They are still great controllers of pests. I mean, you're providing them a healthy life. It's also good it teaches my children how to be better appreciators of just life and caring for them and understanding and just being compassionate.
It's important to know where your food comes from. Definitely.
Yeah. So sustainability is a really important thing too. Like maybe not giving into, even if you find an egg company that is sustainable, you're not giving into the machine too much too. So like these are all things, but like it has to be done in a way that like is correct. Is that laughing in the background?
As Sam laughs, she's tiptoeing around like no one can hear her. She's laughing at herself, tiptoeing around. It's an open mic, no big deal. No one's gonna notice.
It's 8:53.
I could see that so well in my mind's eye. She may as well just be on camera.
But she thinks she's so stealthy.
Do you guys want to do side B? Or you want to keep going with this?
What do we got? We got 8 minutes. What's side B?
Well, we talked about doing 3 pieces of media that all music fans and lovers of art should just be aware of, and it may not be, the top 3, but 3 that maybe that we kind of listen to the most. Or do you want to just keep going with, we're having a blast at Dream Theater, so.
I'm okay. I'm curious to hear what that next part would be. Maybe just the one for now, and then we'll loop back around.
Yeah, let's
I
do
just
it.
revised my list.
Oh yeah, well, James, go ahead, go for it.
I don't have a list.
I owned this on VHS years ago, years and years and years ago, and there's no longer a VCR thing anywhere in my house. So I repurchased it on DVD, and last night, thinking that we were doing this today, went to grab it. I was like, oh, I'm going to watch that. I haven't seen it in so long. And I found I hadn't taken it out of the plastic. The wrap was still across the top, the little stick-on piece. And I was like, oh, man, have done myself a disservice by not opening this sooner. And it's the DVD re-release of A Year and a Half of the Life of Metallica.
Yeah.
This used to be 2 VHS. Now it's just 1 DVD. And it has all of the studio stuff from the first part and all of the live stuff from the second part. This is quintessential ownership. If you are a fan of music, if you like Metallica and are not aware that this exists, buy it immediately. There is zero regret to be had. You will get to see a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff from the making of the Black Album, and you'll get to see a ton of live stuff from the live touring from the Black Album, which went on for. It's still going on now. Actually, they're still touring for the Black Album.
I was just gonna say that. Get out of my head.
But it's a great thing to watch, and watching it yesterday, I was instantly in 1992, 1993 watching it because like the nostalgia, and they're just different people then. That it's like a little bit more innocent for all of them, and Lars is still a jerk. James is like such a. I don't want to call him a baby, but he looks so young, and just his whole demeanor is completely different than it is now. Kirk literally is a baby, and Jason Newsted is like a clown. He's so funny. And like going back and rewatching it yesterday, I have to apologize to everybody that I know that I never gave Jason Newsted the credit that he really deserved. And I gave him credit. But like going back and watching him track his stuff for the Black Album, he freaking brought the fire.
Yeah.
He was so good. And his bass tone was rock solid. And people gave him shit for playing with a pick. Who cares? Right. It was exactly what that album needed, and they captured it great. So, sorry, that was a tangent of my own tangent. But
I remember watching that, with you. I mean, I feel like the musician who I am came from that double VHS thing. Like we watched it so often. I felt like I knew them. I felt like they were our friends.
Yeah.
Right.
I have 3 copies of that on DVD, so I can let students borrow it.
That's awesome.
At any point in time back when we were in person, someone always had one. It's like library books. 2 of them were always out in circulation because it's just required, mandatory.
Awesome.
Yeah,
that does my heart well, cool, gentlemen. Man. Nice. Yes.
Dude, I literally could cry because of that. That's so awesome.
A point to your one comment. I still, Rob, was it Rob or James? Did you send the link this week? This week with the it was like them jamming together, and then Kirk walks in. He still looks like a baby to this day. Like he's still like this young face. Like his hairline may have changed, but like he's still this young. He's got that youthful like, hey, what's up, guys? You're like, yes, what's up?
Yeah, that surfer like dude, like yeah.
It's so funny. Like something I noticed with Kirk, and it's funny you bring that up. I find watching Kirk in a studio setting while holding a guitar, he still seems completely confused at all times.
Yes.
While sitting with an instrument.
Surfer.
Live, it's like it's attached to him, but when he's sitting in a studio, he's just like complete confusion.
Yeah.
It's hysterical to watch. And he's brilliant.
Great suggestion, James.
The super quick on Kirk, you got to find videos of him when he's talking about he has this 59 gold top. Not gold top, but a 59 Sunburst Les Paul that was owned by Peter Green from Fleetwood Mac originally. And they call it Greenie. And it's like one of the most sought after 59 Les Pauls ever. And there was rumors he paid like $1 million for it, but that was just proven to be less. But just watch him talk about that. And that encompasses the goofy childlike wonderment of, I have this guitar.
Yeah, he's always been one of my favorites. He's really, really fun to watch.
Nice.
So what do you guys got? Go for it.
All right, so I got the film that takes you into the heart of the beast, Metal: The Headbanger's Journey. So there you go.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, this is a great. I got into this years ago. I think on VH1 had aired it. It's a 2-disc special edition. It's awesome. You're welcome into the life of this lifelong headbanger, Sam Dunn, who's an anthropologist, and he does this documentary, and it's just. It's amazing. Like he goes over, there's numerous interviews and excerpts with numerous artists. I mean, Tony Iommi, Bruce Dickinson, Dee Snider, Alice Cooper, Rob Zombie, Vince Neil, Ronnie James Dio, Lemmy. I mean, so many bands are featured on here. He goes over the music, the lyrics, the artists, the live shows, the culture and history that comes along with the genre of metal, physical copies of music, and how as friends they used to come together and like, look at their album covers, who had the sickest lyric or who had the coolest art cover. And then within the subgenre of like things like death metal, going over like the controversies that lie within that subgenre. And there's this beautiful, he goes through like this, because he's an anthropologist, he makes a family tree of the metal, how it starts from the 60s, Black Sabbath, Led Zeppelin, Jimi Hendrix, and Deep Purple. And how did it affect? How did you get punk? How did you get pop metal, and how did you get all these things and new American metal? Like, how does it all come? Where does it form? And when you look at this tree, and you can find it online now, it's just phenomenal. He does an amazing job. There's truly a love. It's great to hear the voices of these artists talk about this culture, and that's what it is. And I think a lot of people hear metal, they hear noise, and they think that there's nothing to be said there. There's not great musicianship or great story being told, and there is, and it's a great culture. People, he goes to like, the Wacken Fest, so you get to see these festivals that are iconic, and I can't recommend this enough. I mean, check it out. I don't know if it's streaming anywhere. It's called Metal, a Headbanger's Ball. Sam Dunn, he has his own, I think, YouTube channel where he reviews albums, stuff like that. Phenomenal. It's absolutely phenomenal. Just, I can't say enough great things about it. I've watched this many times.
Don't quote me on it. I think that's on Prime.
Is
think
it?
It's on Prime. I'm not sure.
I'd love to rewatch it.
It's great.
Yeah. I remember that it would be like in parts on like VH1 late at night. And
so good. It's one of those things when it comes on, you're like, bye, I have to watch this now.
Yeah.
I may pass out during it, but I'm watching it.
Yep. Same thing with Harry Potter. So mine is this. Have you guys seen this?
Ooh, I have not seen. I always mean to watch it, and I never have. That is
it is on Prime, and it is basically a documentary about all of these different sidemen or women, as Liberty DeVito from Billy Joel, Phil X, Bon Jovi, Eric Singer, Ray Parker Jr.,
oh wow,
Rudy Sarzo, Kenny Arnoff, Steve Lukather, Newstead, Steve Vai, Anita Strauss. Like a lot of these people, like I literally just went down this list of people I wanted to interview because it's so fascinating to hear the stories of people who play in bands with other people. And, it's like, you're not really a member of the band. You're just an employee sort of. And
right.
It's the etiquette of how to live that life, not get swallowed up by it and sort of ride that wave. Because like, even like the Liberty DeVito story, like he was part of Billy Joel. He was on every one of those iconic records. And one day Joel was like, he talks about some, like they were flying home from tour for Easter break, and Billy Joel wouldn't let him on the plane with him, and he had room, and he's like, no. And all of a sudden he got too big that he was just like, you're not. And it's like, I'm leaving out details of it. And I think they've since made up, but it's just like Rob Zombie talks about like how he would pluck people from Ozzy's band. And like, they talk about like anyone who plays in Alice Cooper's band, like their pedigree is the best. So like, that's another source, a pool of great young talent. This guy, Jason Hook, who plays in Five Finger Death Punch, but his first gig was the sideman for Mandy Moore. Oh, wow. Or it talks about the guitar player who plays for Pink, who's just an incredible musician. I forget his name. I apologize. Jeremy something, but it's just hired gun. It's on Prime. So if you have Prime, it's free to watch for you. But it's
on my list right now.
Absolutely incredible. Like I've watched it multiple times, bought it on VHS, then rebought the Blu-ray because it has like extra features, but you gotta, as a musician, like you just gotta.
You bring up a great point. So like, that's what's gonna bother me. Like I'll watch that now, but like the fact that you just said like, so mine has, it's 2 discs. So that second disc has special features, extended interviews, right? Look at that old school flippy. That's gonna bother me. I don't like that. Like you'll spend good money and like, oh, the new Star Wars is, so you'll buy it, right? But there's no extras, there's no deleted scenes, there's no like it's so that's what the hell is with that? Like you're like why isn't like the lyric book with it? Why isn't like sometimes that is, sometimes like that's gonna bother me. Like you have this extended, I have to go buy
this is like it's empty on the outside. Like there should be liner notes and stuff. Yeah,
that makes me crazy too. That makes me crazy. But like you go to buy that streaming, you'll pay good money for it, and like I'm not gonna get what you have like or the second disc worth of stuff. And I just irritates the hell out of me.
I hate rebuying stuff, and I do it so often. It's terrible. Like I can't tell you how many copies of The Godfather and Goodfellas and Scarface I have, because every time they put out a new one with new stuff, like, oh, it's in the metal case now. Oh, I need that. Like it's just outrageous, but whatever. But
It's
we can
funny.
go on.
Sorry.
I'm sorry, I have to go teach.
Oh, okay.
Well, you know what? This is a great side B. Let's next week when we think about side B, let's just continue because we chose we're gonna do 3. So today will just be 1 for each of us, and let's do the other 2 next week.
Definitely, I love this.
I got some great ones. Yeah, this is a good one.
I know we all do. What are you gonna say, James? Real fast.
Oh, I was going to say, I took out the liner notes for Year and a Half in the Life of Metallica, and it just shows what was basically on the back of the box when you bought it. But then I looked on the back of it, and I was like, oh, I wonder what's on the other side. And it's just black.
It's a
Isn't
waste.
that metal?
Well, maybe, yeah, I guess
No,
a
that's
black
super metal.
No, it's metal, dude. I was like, yes. I was like, oh, waste. Damn you,
Well,
black
because
ink.
because there's so much to say. Like these time capsules. Like I just saw Jack White put out some footage when they were doing that their third album, but the one that had Fell in Love with a Girl, or maybe it was even Elephant that had a Seven Nation Army. But he's like, wouldn't it be great if someone had a bunch of footage that just resurfaced from this recording session, and then it was a quick montage of some footage. So like people have so much cool stuff in the vaults, and I understand it's theirs. Maybe they don't want to show it, but as a fan, we've discussed this. I would love to hear every second they're in the studio. I'd love to watch it. I would watch that if it was, a Justice League's worth of content. I'd watch it. I'd watch it every day.
It's part of the vernacular now. Justice League's.
Yeah. A Year and a Half Life of Metallica Snyder Cut is actually 8 hours now.
Snyder was involved with that? No.
All right, guys. Well, this is a good one. This is really fun. This pumped me up for the day. And when you guys watch this, please dig into this record and dig into their whole catalog. It's a great band. Even if you're not someone who is drawn to music because of, I love guitar or I love drums, just listen to it. If you're a guitar player, you'll get something from the drummer. If you're a drummer, you get something from the guitar player. If you're a songwriter, you'll get something from how they can take such complex music and have it have a hook and have it be lyrical and whimsical and singable. Yeah. So
there's something here for everybody. Yeah.
Right.
Nice job, guys. Nice
and I'll do your homework. I want to see Year and a Half from you and Metal and Hired Gun. Everyone needs to watch who's watching. And we should build a list. We should have like a running this idea. We'll talk about it after.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, guys, thanks for watching. And this has been fun.
All right. And read James's article.
Yes.
The thing.
James wrote an amazing article, guys. It's on the Record Talk Facebook page. It's incredible. Not going to dive too much into it, but he talks about what Taylor Swift just did recently. He draws a great comparison with Metallica. It's a phenomenally well-written article. I can't say enough great things about it. I think you guys, it's going to make, whether you're a Taylor Swift fan or not, you're going to want to be like, I got to listen. Dr. James said.
And more of that to come. So we look forward to it.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
All right, boys and girls. Until next time, rock and roll.
Everyone, have a good one. Take care.